Welcome sports fans to GenX Classic Sports, where we bring the nostalgia of our sports-filled youth into the present day. Grab your favorite retro jersey, crack open a cold one, and let's stroll down memory lane together.
All right, everybody, welcome back to what will now be episode 30, and this is part 2 of our discussion with Bryan Smith, former El Dorado Wildcat, who went on to play some JUCO ball at Texarkana Community College and then got drafted into professional baseball by the Houston Astros. And we're going to now move into more of his discussion about what happened to him in college and in pro ball and some of his experiences. And it's a great conversation. And Bryan did an excellent job answering my silly questions. And so we appreciate you listening. And if you enjoy what we do, as always, click like, click subscribe, depending on your streaming app, and let us know that you enjoy what we do. Thank you. All right. So you played 2 years at Texarkana. Obviously, you did well if you made an all-star game. You're batting in the fifth hole. You hit a few home runs. You're stealing bases with the green light and all that. So at what point over there was the pro? So you told me that certain teams were sending you a lot of information and stuff, but did you even consider going to a 4-year school after you got done at Texarkana, or were you pretty convinced that regardless of the round, when I get drafted after year 2, I'm gone?
It was probably more of a 70-30 I was going, because what it was, I was drafted after my freshman year at Texarkana, and I decided not to sign, and I went back. And so Houston had my rights up until the following draft that following year. So I was considered what they called a draft and follow. And so I actually signed with Houston before the draft of my sophomore year. I didn't go back through the draft. They had my rights.
Okay, so they drafted you after your freshman. They drafted you after your freshman year.
Yes, and I didn't sign with them.
Do they still do it like that now? Is that an option nowadays?
It is.
Wow, I didn't even. Well, I was convinced you'd only played 1 year at Texarkana and got drafted and left. So that explains why I was so sure that you had gotten drafted after the first year. You did.
No, so it's funny. I actually should have been in your class. I should have been in class of the '89. I went to college when I was 17.
Yeah, you were young. Yeah, you were a
Yeah.
young guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually drafted my first year when I was 18.
Wow.
And I didn't sign, and I signed when I was 19.
Okay. All right. So do you think was that a mutual decision, or they preferred you stay and get a little more seasoning, or where did that come from?
It was probably a little of both. Of course, you can imagine if any kid that's wanting to play professional baseball and they have the opportunity, if the opportunity presents itself, you're going to go, man, I'm going to take it. But after being drafted and talking to the scouts and the coaches, we all agreed that it would do me good if I went back to school for another year. And, I kind of agreed with them.
That totally makes sense. I get that. So, all right. So you had a nice sophomore season at Texarkana, I'm assuming, and now you're done, and it's time to go play for the Astros. You're not going back into the draft. You're going to report. So did you report so as soon as the Texarkana season's over, did you report to some kind of rookie league or single A, or how did that go?
Originally, I was scheduled to go to rookie league, and I asked if I could take a few weeks off. I didn't want to report right away. And they gave me the okay to, I think I took about 3 weeks off. Well, before reporting the rookie ball, they called me and said, look, we decided we're going to send you directly to A ball, short season. So I ended up going to Auburn, New York in the Penn League.
Auburn, New York. Okay. I looked that up the other day, and I wasn't sure if that was New York or Alabama.
Yeah, and that was the Penn League, and that's where I started my professional career there in Auburn.
What round did they draft you in, Bryan?
Oh, the when I was drafted in the 46th round.
Okay.
And I had a great sophomore year, and it was projected that I was going from the 46th round that I would have been drafted. I think they were saying between 5 and 7 is
Now,
where my projection would have been for after my sophomore year.
now hold up. That's a lot of money.
Man,
So,
it was back then.
so
It's
did you
not
not have?
now.
I'm trying to figure this out. So you didn't have any control over going back into the draft and up in your
I
round,
did.
getting drafted earlier.
I did. That's the
Okay.
leverage I had.
Okay. Okay.
So the
Oh,
leverage I had, I could have entered the draft, or I could have told Houston, "Look, I'm going to college. I'm
right.
going to Arkansas," because the offer was still there from Arkansas.
Right.
So I had a little leverage.
So does that leverage allow you maybe to get a little more money from the signing bonus or something
I
like
got a
that?
lot
Or
more. Yeah.
okay. Okay. Now it makes sense. Okay. And I'm not going to get personal. I'm not going to
No,
ask you
no,
what it
no,
was.
no.
But but I was trying to figure out who had the leverage. That's exactly the
Yeah,
word I was trying
yeah,
to figure out how that went down. If you're sitting here knowing you're going to go in the single digit round, but somebody's got your rights for the 46 or what, that didn't make sense. But now I got you.
yeah. They had my rights up until the day of the draft coming up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was either yeah, I got you. Because really, I mean, you did have options, so that's what helped you out a little bit. Sounds
That's
like.
right.
All
That's right.
right. Well, cool. So let's talk about you. All right. So you've been in Texarkana a couple of years. You've been bussing all over the country, on this end of the country at least, playing some fall and baseball. But now you're going to New York to play rookie or single A ball. How's that for a guy feeling homesick from Union County, Arkansas? Was
It
that
was.
a was that an emotional adjustment along with everything else?
I don't know if it was an emotional because and again, I'm so excited
Right.
about getting started. And the one thing the one thing that I regret that I didn't do is that I didn't reach out to Vince before I left. I think about that, and I wish that I would have had the conversation with him to say, "Vince, tell me what I'm getting into and what to expect." And that's one of the regrets that I do have, that I didn't do that. But it was a little different. You're finally on your own,
Yeah.
and you're up here with a lot of guys. Some guys that you've seen play on TV that's been at these
Yeah.
D1 schools.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I find out I go from hitting fifth in college to they're wanting me back at leadoff,
Yeah.
and that's where I started. I started as a leadoff hitter in center field, so it was definitely an adjustment.
Well, here's my take, knowing you and what you ran and all that. And so, best athlete on your high school team, I don't even have to ask. I know that. And then you said you were the fastest dude on your college team. So now you're in single A ball. Are you at that point? You're 19 years old too, by the way, right?
Right.
Are you starting to look around and go, no, wait a minute, this dude over here is pretty fast? Or did you still feel like I'm the man? Like I can outrun these dudes. I can play center field better than this. Or did you see some actual real talent that was eye opening to you when you got there? You can tell me, you can be confident, say no, man, I was the best still.
No, 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 no. I'm just gonna say I was the probably the middle of the bunch as far as the outfielders
Yeah.
on that particular team that I was on. I was probably the fastest guy
Yeah.
by not by much, but I probably was.
But you had real speed around you, it sounds like, for the first time, like good
Yeah,
speed, right?
yes, and it was the first time that I had really ever played with other outfielders that could throw as well as I could.
Uh-huh.
I had I'm sure you've heard of Manny Mota.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Manny Mota Jr. was my right fielder.
Okay.
And it was really the first time that I'd seen somebody that could throw just as well as I could from the
Uh-huh.
outfield. These guys, they had some special talent.
Which statistically, holds up. I mean, I there was another podcast where I looked up the stats on Google or whatever about the odds of making it, from high school to college, and then from college to the pros, and then to the major leagues from any level of the pros. And I mean, you're really whittling down the guys who can play with that kind of physical ability by the time you get there, I would assume. Because I mean, you're seeing some rockets in the outfield. You're seeing some dudes that
Yeah,
can fly. You're probably seeing some dudes for the first time that can hit the ball over the moon too.
that's right. That's right. I mean, these guys can swing it, and once you start to get to that level, everybody around you can run and throw and hit, and it really becomes more of a mental game once you get to that level because everybody's got all the physical tools, and
Yeah.
you talking about seeing guys. I really thought that I was fast until I was in my first spring training and I'm up against guys. That's when we had Kenny Lofton.
Yeah. I looked that up the other night and realized he was in that organization
Yeah,
then.
so Kenny was I think a year or two ahead of me. So in spring training, that's who I'm up. I'm up against Kenny Lofton, a guy named Brian Hunter. Mind you,
Brian Hunter. Yeah.
I'm running the 6.47. These guys are running 6.2 and 6.3.
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievably fast.
Yeah, I'd never seen that in my life. I thought the clock was wrong.
That's unbelievably fast.
So these guys are running 6.2, 6.3, and here I am as a 6.47. So I'm not and I'm not even close to being the fastest guy. So that's what I'm up against now, and that's what I'm seeing every day.
Well, tell me about the pitching then, because I mean, you hit for average in high school and college. You did a good job of making contact and not, too many strikeouts and so forth. So, and you had it in your head how to be a leadoff guy, and you had it in your head how to be a fifth hole guy. It sounds like too. So, man, though, tell me about the pitching by then, because that had to be different, right?
So and JUCO, you think you're seeing everybody's number one. Well, now in professional ball, you are seeing everybody's number one.
Yeah, for real. They're blue chip number one.
Yeah, they're not only are they throwing 88, 89, mid 90s, but they're throwing that in their hitting spots. And so it's
Yeah,
different.
they're painting corners.
That's right. That's right. So it's totally different. So once you start getting to that level, you're looking for one pitch because that's probably all you're going to get. And if you miss that one pitch, you're in
Yeah.
trouble. So that's where we are now. You've become disciplined.
Man, I would think you would not want to get behind in the count on any of those dudes, especially the better ones. You just can't get behind in the count. You're just at their mercy, I'm guessing, because
That's right.
these dudes are now they're throwing four pitches, right? Or three good ones and an
Right.
okay fourth one, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, you're seeing these guys, and a lot of these guys are high ranking draft picks, and they know what they're doing. So it was definitely different for sure.
I heard a guy say it was a football player one time, and somebody asked him about the competition he played against, and he said, "Hey, those guys drew a check every week too."
That's right.
Well, and well, Brian, statistically, of course, man, at single A, you're going to get the real studs. Let me tell you, maybe you'll relate to this, maybe not. Let me tell you what Glover, for those listening that don't know, we had a mutual teammate, me for high school, Brian for summer ball, who got drafted by the Cardinals after our senior year. Let me tell you what he told me when he came home for like homecoming or whatever in the fall, and I saw him. He told me that he said, picture a whole team of guys in rookie ball or whatever that are all more or less the best athlete on their team in high school and more or less the best baseball player too. So some combination of the best baseball player and the best athlete. He said, now imagine they all played shortstop and pitched in high school, all of them.
That's right.
He said, now, whether they're from the Dominican or wherever, America, somewhere in America, They get 9 of them out there together, and suddenly the guy that was the best pitcher on his high school team is in right field, and the best shortstop on his high school is having to learn first base, and on and on and on. So he said, he was simplifying it for me, but I understood he was saying you got 9 shortstops out there having to learn new positions, and you got a pitching staff full of guys that are just wild as hell. They can't even hit the backstop, some of them, but they and so he was explaining to me. He said, the team that he played on was awful. He said they were all trying to learn what they were doing, and so they were awful. And he said just errors everywhere because infielders are trying to learn the outfield and so forth. So, and I always think about that and think about how many guys at any level of the minors were that guy. They were the stud wherever they came from. They might have been that pitcher, or they might have been a shortstop or third baseman, because so many schools, I believe, put their best guys in those spots, maybe center field, or best athletes at least. And now they're all mentally trying to learn a whole new way to play baseball, I would think. And so
Right.
then you put them up there against this kind of pitching that you're seeing for the first time. So it's got to be, like you said, such a mental daily grind to survive that. So that, I think that's what people like to hear about, is just the level that everybody was around you and how you sort of had to deal with that, man.
Glover saw more of when he was in rookie ball.
Yeah.
Most of the guys in rookie ball are probably right out of high school. In the A ball where I was, I want to say I was the only guy that was from JUCO. All the other guys were D1. They had come from D1 programs, so they were.
They're quality guys. They've pitched. They've hit against quality pitching. They've had quality coaching. So these are some dudes on their way for sure. So that's really interesting. So, what about the conditioning in your body? And there, you said you had a hamstring injury even before years ago. Before that, how did that change? Were you always really diligent about that, or you said you wished you'd talked to Vince? Was that one of the reasons? Like, what were some of the things that I've always wondered about how the body just holds up playing 175 games in a summer or whatever.
Man, conditioning is when you're playing every day, you stay in shape.
Yeah.
Um, if you go, and a lot of people don't believe it, if you go 3 or 4 days without not playing, I believe you're out of game shape. And a lot of people
Wow.
don't believe that. No, man, we stayed in shape. You're playing every day. For us, the routine, only thing that I knew is I had to be at the field every day at 4:30 for a 7 o'clock game.
Yeah.
And there were days that I would lose track of what day it was. I just knew I had to be at the park at 4:30, and it just becomes a routine.
Yeah.
You play at 7, you're probably through around 9:30 or 10. You eat, you go home, go to sleep. I probably wasn't getting up to 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and you start the day over again. So that was the routine.
Of course, the most famous thing about the minor leagues that you hear people talk about are those bus rides, man. Tell me about that travel back then.
Man, when you're on those bus rides and you're on there for 3 or 4 hours, and then you have to play that night, you've got to love it.
Yeah.
You got to love it because you don't start flying until you get to double A, triple A. So in the lower minors, like I was in, you've got to love it because you do have those long bus rides. Now the buses were nice. I will say that.
They did have better buses, huh? That's good.
Yeah, yeah, they were top notch buses, but it was still a long ride. Yeah.
There's a guy I follow on YouTube who talks about these kinds of things from his minor league days, and he talks about different organizations having better budgets for the food, and how sometimes you'd be starving, man, and the food selection was not great either. The per diem was pretty low. Tell
Man,
us
I
about Tell us how that
think
went,
our
man.
per diem might have been $20 or $30 a day or something like that. It wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah. Even with 90s prices, that didn't buy a whole lot of food for a guy burning as many calories as you were, right?
That's right.
So, what kind of things you said it, so I'm gonna drill in now. What other things do you wish, you had known that Vince or somebody could have maybe shed some light on for you? I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? You're a 19-year-old kid, basically.
Right.
You're all the way across the country playing advanced big time baseball. I mean, what kind of things were you not ready for that you wish you had known more about?
I guess it was a more of um, probably the most important thing, and it took me a while, is taking care of your body. I'm the type of guy, man, I was still eating McDonald's and Burger King and then going out and playing. If I'd have known, take better care of your body, it definitely affects how you play the game. It's little things like that that I wish I would have spoke with Vince about and say, tell me little things that I need to do, that's help me out and help me advance. And it's things like that that I wish that I would have reached out to him for guidance on. Tell me about how you dissect pictures. What are you looking for? Are you give me some tips that I need to look for when I'm playing the outfield? Because you got to realize I'm still relatively new in the outfield. I've
Yeah,
only
that's
played
true.
2 or 3 years. So, and as you know, Vince was a hell of an athlete, man. And hell, Vince was drafted in the third round.
I know, and Vince could have played 3 sports in college had he wanted to also. He
That's
was
right.
that kinda dude.
He was. So just little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and, Vince was always, I thought, in phenomenal shape. When we saw him in the late winter, he'd come play some pickup basketball at the gym and stuff, just to probably not the greatest idea looking back, but he back then it might have been different. They probably, anything to keep you active, but he was always, I thought, in phenomenal shape. But the thing I want to ask about though is whether it's having a slump or a couple of errors in the outfield or an injury, there has to be a tremendous amount of pressure that if I miss a day, some dude may take my spot. Is that the mentality? Is that part of that grind you're talking about? Does that kick in at that point where it's kind of a fight for survival in so many ways, or do you even have time to look at it like that?
No, brother, it's definitely cutthroat. You ever heard of Wally Pip?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there were, I told you I had the cornea transplant.
Right.
But what I didn't know is at the time, I knew something was going on with my eyes, but I was afraid to say something to the organization because I felt like if they found out that I was hurt,
Yep.
I'm out of the lineup, somebody's in there, and then how am I going to get back in?
Yep.
And it wasn't until I think it was my second year in spring training that the doctors they finally called and they said, "Look, we've got to tell the team." And I begged them not to say anything, and they had to tell the team what was going on. And when you after realizing it, man, I was basically playing with one eye.
And your eye closest to the pitcher was the bad one. Is that what you said? Your left eye?
That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
so,
You're not picking
we
up
use
the ball.
these drills all the time, and you might have went through it too. The baseball used to be numbered, and they wanted you to call off the number.
Yeah.
I could never do it, and I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
It's because I was blind in my left eye and didn't know it.
I feel you, brother. I was shooting free throws in the gym, just horsing around, and one of our coaches walked by and said, "Dude, I think you're blind. Your depth perception is awful." And I got to thinking, well, that's probably not good for baseball whatsoever, hitting and trying to catch fly balls.
That's right.
But
That's
if
right.
you were as blind as you were, you're not seeing rotation on the ball like everybody else.
That's
So
right.
which is so critical at that level, knowing how it came out of that hand and trying to see those seams and all and what spins on the ball. I'm sure that's a millisecond decision you have to make when a dude's throwing heat like those guys do, and you don't have that. So,
I didn't have.
that's I don't
I'm.
blame you for wanting to stay quiet about that.
Yeah, I'm being told that majority of the guys that make the big leagues, their eyesight is 2015. My eyesight
I'll
was
bet. I bet that's true.
20. I think it was 2200, 2300, whatever is legally blind is whatever it is considered to be legally blind is what it
Blind.
was. And
Yeah.
I remember once they told me what it was, um, I had to wait on a donor. And I remember out of the blue, I got a call from the doctor and said, "We got a donor. We need you here at the hospital within 24 hours." And that's how it happened.
That was when you were with the Astros?
No,
They arranged
it,
all that?
yeah, it was after I had left the Astros that I actually had the
Okay.
transplant. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that organization, I mean, around, I don't know if I've got all the dates exactly right, but that organization, yeah, you had Kenny Lofton in it, and later on, not too much later on, I guess at that time they had Ken Caminiti and Jeff Bagwell came along, and Craig Biggio was a catcher still back then. There was a lot of talent in that organization, you know. So
So mind you, I'm in spring training with all these guys.
yeah,
I'm there with Caminetti. I'm there with Bagwell, and ironically, I'm there with Biggio. And the cool thing about that is that's during the exact time that Biggio was making the switch from catcher to second base.
yeah,
Every day
I remember
after
that.
our regular work, Biggio was. We used to call it the six pack because we had six fields, and that's when they were transferring him from catcher to second base. So yeah, I was there with all of those guys for sure.
Caminetti had a cannon for an arm, didn't he?
Yes, he did. That's what it was.
That's what stands out about him when you see highlights is Caminetti backhanding stuff way behind the bag and just turning around and hosing people, man. That was impressive back
He
then.
had a cannon. You're absolutely right. He did.
He's a big dude too. He was a
Yep,
thick old boy, wasn't he?
he was. He was.
So all right, so you played rookie, I mean, I'm sorry, single A ball first in New York. Where did you play at the same place the next year? Or did you
So
go somewhere?
no, the next year I moved to Burlington, Iowa, and
Okay.
I tell you, being a old country boy from the South, our first game in Burlington, Iowa, was snowed out. You can imagine what I'm going through. I'm not used to being in anything like that. But that's where
Crazy.
I played my second year.
Wow. You had some cold workouts.
Yeah. And if you've ever got jammed with a guy throwing 90 plus
Yeah.
in the cold weather, you'll remember it.
Hey, what about the wooden bat thing? Did that bother you? Did that transition bother you at all, or is it just part of the deal and you just get over it quickly, or did that take a while?
It took a little while. It did
Did it?
because the sweet spot is a whole lot different, and so that was definitely different. So I definitely had to make the adjustment there for sure. Yeah.
I remember when Vince would come to practice, he had an old army, looked like an army duffel bag, slam full of wooden bats because you're gonna break them eventually, and he'd be home for the whole winter and needed some, so he he'd have,
Hmm.
I'm sure you did too, but he had his big. I've got one of his bats somewhere that he broke and taped it up, and he kept trying to tape it up, and he needed to make them last as long as he could, and finally he gave up on it, and I took it and I've got it somewhere. It's not in here, but
Yeah.
I got it. But so um you did 2 years in the minors
I
ultimately.
did. And the third year, I was actually headed to Double A. Um, and I won't, I definitely won't blame it on my eye, but once they figured it out that I couldn't see, that was pretty much the end of it. But I was headed to Double A when they didn't re-sign me.
Yeah, and Brian, the thing that I hear that you've already alluded to, and whether it's especially D1 college or my God, especially pro ball, is their attitude a lot of times is, "Hey, we got a line around the block of dudes that are just like you. We'll find." I mean, it's that cutthroat, right?
It really is, man. When I tell you I ran a 6.47, I bet you they had 10 other guys that could do the same thing.
See, that's hard to. That is just so hard to. Well, and as it turns out, they had dudes faster, right?
Had dudes faster. That's right.
That is
That's
so,
right.
I don't know about you, but when I used to, every now and then we'd go to pro games or college games of whatever sport, but I'm the dude that gets early. I want to see a punter, how high they punt the ball. I want to see a quarterback warm up. I want to see how high the receivers can jump and all that kind of stuff. So I'm fascinated with speed and arm strength and all that. And it is hard for me to imagine people beating your time in the 60, like you're talking about the Loftons and whoever it might be. It's hard to believe that people can run that fast and have the skill set that translates to baseball and figure out the fielding and by the way, Did you ever see anybody that you thought, man, this dude can run and he can throw, but he's never going to hit at this level? Or was there some of that going on too, where they were being patient with guys maybe a little bit longer because they were so physically gifted, but maybe you didn't see it as far as something about their skill set?
I thought that initially about Kenny Lofton.
Really?
Yeah, I'm. I go back and Kenny played at Auburn the year before me, and I go back and I look at our stats, and they were similar.
Mm-hmm.
They gave Kenny more time because Kenny was
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot faster than I was, and I'm thinking, I personally believe Kenny should be in the Hall of Fame,
He was a heck of a player, man.
and I'm thinking, man, if I'd have got the time that Kenny had, what kind of career could I have had if I'd have been able to see?
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that initially about Kenny, but after a few years, Kenny turned it on, and man, Kenny could play, and he learned to hit, and he could hit well. Yeah,
Yeah. He was an all around guy for sure, man. He was something else.
he
Well,
was.
is there anything else about the minors you want to add before I got another quick topic? I've had you an hour 15, and I apologize, but there's something else I want to ask you about. But is there anything?
You're good.
Okay, let me ask you this. Then, did you have kids that played sports by any chance?
My daughter, she ran track,
Okay,
um, but she never wanted to play softball or anything. But
okay,
she ran track, and she was a cheerleader at the University of Arkansas. Yeah, but she didn't.
oh,
That's all she wanted to do.
okay. Well, the reason I ask is how much baseball do you watch since you play? I mean, do you see high school and college games very often and I'm just curious because you watch all the time.
Yeah, I watch Arkansas all the time.
Oh,
I do.
okay, all right. My son's he's not playing ball, but he's attending up there. So how do you this is about Gen X. I mean, I'm talking to Gen X guys. I'm talking to a Gen X pro right now. How do you think the game it may be a conversation for another day. There's so many things, but how do you think the game has changed at whatever level over the years since the 80s and 90s when we were playing and you were a pro in the early 90s?
I think they're bigger than we were.
Mhm.
Um, I think they're faster than we were. Um, I'm not into all of the. I know you see the catchers wearing the earpieces
Yeah,
and
drives me
calling
crazy.
pitches.
Drives me
Me
crazy.
too. Yeah, I'm not into to all of that. That's how
Yeah.
I think the game has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
You see, I personally never faced a guy throwing 100. I never faced that. Now, when you look on these college teams, there's probably two or three guys throwing 100. Now, maybe you can tell me. Do you think that's the radar gun?
I don't know. I was watching the College World Series this year because Arkansas being in it, and I've got in-laws that are LSU fans, and I watched a lot of baseball this college season, and I was surprised how many guys were throwing 99 and 100. Like you said, multiple guys per staff. When that used to be sort of an exception, you'd have a guy like that, and now there's teams that can throw three guys in a row out there throwing that from both sides.
That's
And
right.
I don't. I don't know if you tell me is that because the coaching is so much better in the condition because let me tell you my experience with kids now have a personal coach that trains them strength wise and flexibility and speed. And pitchers have pitching tutors and hitters have hitting tutors. And then they play high school ball. Then they play travel ball. They specialize now. High school coaches. This has been my experience because Bryant had a heck of a football program, and my son played football there. But kids are so coached by position, by strength, by pitching versus they're so coached, and then high school coaches will tell you that they're okay with you playing multiple sports. I don't believe that for a second. I think most of them are lying about that. They want you to play their sport year round. I've seen that, and I believe that's what's really going on. But I go to these games and I watch some online from local around here, and there's no concept. Just this is just me. I'm being an old man. Get off my lawn. Turn the music down. But
Uh-huh.
But I don't see any concept of small ball. Like the teams will only bunt guys around when it's the seventh inning and they have to make a comeback. It seems like it's get a couple of guys on and pray for a home run. That seems to be the offensive strategy nowadays because the kids are bigger and stronger and the bats are hotter and a million reasons. But it feels like the getting down and dirty and stealing bases and sacrificing guys over and all that is kind of gone. And I don't know. I mean, because theoretically, the guys that are coaching now are our age or not too much younger than us, a lot of them. But I don't know. I just don't see the style of baseball that I grew up watching the Cardinals and Vince Coleman and Willie McGee and stealing all those bases and we were very aggressive and y'all were very aggressive and I've heard you talk about now Van Horn being aggressive and having a guy he trusted to steal. I don't see that much anymore. I see, hey man, we got two guys on. This next guy better hit it over. I mean, that's kind of how I see.
Man, you're
That's
spot
just
on. I see the exact same thing. If you listen to it, all I hear now is launch angle. Yeah, launch angle. And I don't even know if I really know what launch angle means. But yeah,
I know a
yeah,
lot of
you don't.
stats that I don't know what they mean.
I know. And it's a totally
Yeah.
different game than when you and I played. I'm used to getting a man on first. Either he steals or you bunt him over, and then they have the next guy come up and try to hit him. That does you don't see much of that now.
And you don't wait till you have to have a comeback in the last inning to do that. We used to I call it manufacturing runs. We didn't hope and pray on home runs. We had dudes that can hit them, but we tried to manufacture runs as early as possible in the game. And I don't see,
Yep.
I just don't see much of that. And, you're in the state tournament and I've seen probably two up all the way to 5A state tournaments the last few years here and there. And it's just like, man, they're just hoping for a home run. That's all they've got to throw out there, man. It drives me nuts.
You're absolutely right, man. It's definitely a different game than when you and I played it for sure.
Well, and
It is.
these kids are, they're lifting a lot more probably than we did back then. And
Hmm.
so I don't know. I guess it makes you kind of lazy coaching if you got one kid that can smack it around that good. But that's just what I see. That's the way it feels to me that's what's going on.
I remember having a coach with a conversation with Van Horn. It's probably been a few years ago. I was there in Fayetteville, and I go up and visit him from now and then. And I said, "Man, I remember you getting on me once for catching a fly ball with one hand.
Mhm.
I didn't catch it, and I was
Yep.
drifting." And
Yep.
I said, now I notice all your guys, they're reaching up with one hand making a catch, and I don't see you saying anything. And he kind of looked at me and laughed. He said, Brian, the game has changed a little bit.
Things have changed.
He said, all I want him to do is catch it and make it out, and I'm good with it. So the game is a little different, man. And, I say that, and then how did that wasn't the only play, but this year in the College World Series,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Yeah.
misplayed ball here or there, the fundamentals of it. So it's a little different now.
Yeah, it seems like even at the highest levels, occasionally there's a guy that is like he's in the outfield out of necessity, I guess, and he doesn't really know how to judge line drives and fly balls. And I'm not saying that's what happened
Hmm.
in that one, but you do
Right.
see some of that. You're like, well, that was kind of a fundamental thing that they blew right there. What's going on with that? But
Yeah. And that guy kind of slipped too. So
yeah,
it
he
wasn't
did.
all
That was
fundamental.
yeah, his
He
feet.
slipped. So,
Yeah, but you do see some really boneheaded stuff even at the highest level, and you wonder about it for sure.
hmm
Well,
hmm
I've kept you for an hour and a half. I'm gonna wrap up the podcast recording right here, but I want you to stay on for like 5 more minutes. Is that cool?
okay. I'm good, brother.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'm
So,
good.
Brian, on behalf of the listeners, I really appreciate you joining us, and we're going to get 2 really good episodes out of this. And not only that, we're going to talk some more in the future at some point or another. All right.
Brother, I appreciate the time, man.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to kill the recording, but you hang on. Okay. Thank you, Brian, very
Mhm.
much. That's Bryan Smith, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on GenX Classic Sports, where nostalgia meets the thrill of the game. Tune in next time for more insightful discussions and memorable moments, brought to you by Pine Street Productions. Until then, stay passionate about sports and keep the memories alive.